Hello everyone, welcome back to the Biggening Corporation. I've gone ahead and added which episode number it is in the beginning title here so that I don't lose track myself. It is episode 9, and we left off yesterday with a lot of planning but not a lot of code. So today we're going to try to put a little more emphasis on the coding. Just to recap for the people joining who have not joined us before, we are making a game with Business Central functionality where players will use bots to generate wealth, which are going to be competing against each other each season. So if you want to hear the full story, episode 1 is of course on YouTube, and I recommend it. So, what are we going to do today? We had whiteboarded out, virtually of course, some of the things that we know we needed, that the specification, which was more of a story, outlined for all the different parts we needed to make. So, looking at our list yesterday, one thing that I noticed is that if we look at our flow of what we had generated yesterday, we are going to have sales wanting to generate items. Apologies, I just noticed that my streaming is in fact capping it at 5 frames per second. That's not very useful. Let's see here. Apologies, I may have to stop and restart the stream real quick just to fix that issue. I don't think any of us will enjoy having that 5 frames per second to work with. Alright, officially our first small technical failure. Brilliant. Alright, I will be right back. Okay, so apologies for having to restart everything there. I'm very thankful that my screen recording software is nice enough to have the frames per second displayed. That would have been embarrassing to have had 5 frames per second the whole video. This is not a shooter, but that would have been noticeable. So yeah, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, pay no mind, I will have joined the videos together. For those of you who are watching real time in the stream, apologies. So, where we were was that if you notice, we talked about doing sales, and with sales we had a dependency on the idea of items, and buying has a dependency on items, and then when we look at items, we introduced one other little dependency tree that we had, that we might have dependencies on research. And then down here at the bottom of the pile, the research may also depend on items, so we get into a loop between these two. However, we have the loop between the two of requirements, which is not a problem. We can do circular requirements within the same extension. We're not doing multiple extension solutions. However, while lots of things depend on items, we also have in our research tree, we want to affect many other parts of the system. We want to change the number of operations per day by the bots. We want to change the power use. We want to impact the effectiveness of the marketing bots. We want to affect the vendor bots. There's a variety of different parts of the system that research is going to affect, and I think that it will be of benefit to us before we set up the items to have the research system in place. And then with the research framework in place, we can then go ahead and create the concept of master items. So, okay, so as a result of that, we are going to have our focus today be on the research system, and we are going to use the eventing system to hook into other parts of the system with research. We are then hopefully going to have enough time to dive into master items and maybe even creating the framework for the idea behind the customer and vendor finding. I'm thinking rather than build into the contact system, that we may build a similar idea where we have prospects, and that's where those will live. We'll play with that. I don't think there's a lot of value to us trying to make use of the contact engine. It would work. Just because it's on our list, let's take a quick look at some things. If you have not worked with the contact system inside of Business Central, in the early days of CRM, almost 20 years ago, when CRM systems were being created and whatnot, NAV, at the time, Navision, this was one of the last pieces that was really developed in the system before Microsoft acquired it, the relationship management functionality. Contacts are your primary entity, and you will see that contacts can have relations, connections in some fashion or another to either a vendor or a customer or a bank account or all of those things. So for example, if we come down here to this American Wood Exports, sure, we can see that this is connected to a vendor card. So it's already a little bit of a parallel system, but the idea behind this is that you could connect contacts to different parts and areas of the system via this business relationship management. And if we look here at the company business relation, we can see that, for example, they are a vendor and this is their linking number. They could also potentially be a customer of ours, which apparently I can't just manually create that. I suspect the customer link has to be created if I create a customer from this contact. But that was the idea, was that you could create all of the different businesses that you do business with, and create different types of entities from that, as well as track the costs and communications and potentially aim marketing efforts at those. That's to me, it's still a valuable part of the system. There are some key areas in it. I don't know that there's enough benefit to utilizing this as our starting point for prospects. So I figured, since that's the only bullet list item on our list today, that I was a little undecided on, it'd be good to share what the thought process is. Now, for master items, I am still definitely going to create a new table for that. I think that's going to be our easiest way to maintain information in a more useful way for a system administrative point of view. And when players unlock different key technologies in the process of things, those technologies may add more items to their list of items that they can buy, sell, manufacture, assemble, whatever have you, and it'll be easy enough to generate the items from the master items. Okay, so let's talk research. We had specified yesterday that we are going to have basically how much research points, I guess we'll call it. Some games implement items for it, implement measures for it. I think we'll just do a nice simple points, kind of a progress system towards things. A descriptive way of naming the research. We'll probably give it a primary key of some sort. And then we'll have to decide how do we want to configure what it does. So I'm thinking we've got a few different main categories of research, so this might be time for another enumerator of a custom type, and then we'll want to have some interesting code unit logic to handle these. Okay. Yeah, great. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and this isn't necessarily master company specific. It's not bot related. It's not player company specific. It's a whole subsystem of its own. So I'm going to create a new folder for research. And let's create a new table. Our wizard is up and rolling today. So let's see. I'm just trying to think of how I want to refer to a technology tree item. Whenever you have a tree of structures, oftentimes the individual things are nodes or leaves in that tree. So I think we can keep things simple, and we will just call. Yeah, I mean, let's go with a nice simple research. Okay, and this is going to be an integer. Everything is system metadata. So, and we'll go ahead and give it a description. Thank you. Descriptive field, often these, historically descriptions were 50 or 80, now they're 100. Let's stick with a relatively standard sort of thing. Okay, now looking back at our requirements here, we also wanted to have the research point cost, points to unlock, which I think for simplifying field name verbiage, let's just call it points. That's nice and simple. We're going to be dealing with big number items, so like for example 100 or 1,000 or I don't know 100,000, but integer seems perfectly fine. We don't need to do any decimal math on this. I don't think anywhere we're dealing with research points will round things. That's fine. And then I think for the way that I think player experience wise, one of the things that would be more fun is having the research unfold. I've played a lot of games with tech trees, and sometimes you can see the whole tree and go, okay, well, right now we're working on pottery. I would like to be at fighter jet. And you can just see the entire tech tree open in front of you, and there's some fun to that. I think for what we're doing here, it would be fun to have the ability to choose hide, to choose whether or not this particular research is hidden if the prerequisites are not met. How to phrase that? Let's see. Unmet hide. That's not the best of phrasing, but we'll go with it. Okay. And we are going to add an enumerator data type that we haven't invented yet, called research type. We probably should have made the enumerator first. Happens. And then separately, we are going to have a prerequisite subtable that will list all of the possible prerequisites. Which that'll be interesting because we're going to have to introduce the idea of checking for circular references in our research tree, because it's altogether too easy to turn an extensible tree into a wreath and then things blow up. So let's go with this for now. That seems fine. And okay, great. And we'll do auto increment true, because again, we're fine with research entry number. A lot of our primary keys and what we're going to be doing for a lot of these setup tables, and a pure integer is fine. We don't need to have the codes memorized in our head, so why fight with that? Let's see. Oh, beautiful. Enumerator. Nice and easy. I didn't know an enumerator needed an object number. Is that type. Yeah, guess so. Alright, well, 88,001 it is. It is Friday afternoon on the last day for me of a long run of vacation, and yes, I thought so. It was not defaulting the ID, and I was somewhat surprised. That's fine. So my brain is a little foggier than usual. We'll see if we get through this. Alright, so we have different research types. We have operations per day. We have power use. We have prospects by marketing bots, and realistically, if we're going to make prospects be where purchase bots are also going to put the potential vendors, then we can just simply call it prospect. And then we can have, we are going to have some researches that unlock entire classes or unlock item categories. We are going to have some that unlock location types, and then we are going to have location capacity, so that's an upgrade type. Okay, so with all of that said, let's scooch this over a little bit here. I think that'll be easier. As always, I do a blank one for my first value, so that way you manually have to choose something. Operations, power, prospects. I'm going to just call this unlocks. Do I want to do that way? Real quick, let's go look at my settings. We're going to jump into our master data. We have set up the items in our item posting groups, I believe it is. Let's system manager, not business manager. Yes. Okay. Inventory posting groups, I believe, is our... maybe it's our gen product posting groups here. Let's take a look. Gen product posting groups, and... okay, product posting. Sure. Okay, so when we're talking about unlocking classes of items, we're talking about unlocking based on the product posting groups. So, with that in mind, we have product posting group, categories, and location types, perhaps? So, let's do that. So, product posting group, we're doing values here, so this will be what we'll see in the code versus the caption. So unlock product posting group, unlock item category code, and I'm going to make this a little clearer for ourselves. Item category code, and unlock location. There we go. Okay, researches that are designed entirely just to potentially unlock other researches would then nice and easy be just blank ones, so that works pretty okay. And when we say unlock advanced logistics, that's going to unlock the advanced logistic type. We also have to think about when we unlock the class 2 or 3 items, I think we'll make life easier for the player, and that we will unlock the related bots of those classes at the same time. So, nice and easy there. Alright, and now this is what we showed to the person actually using these categories. So, unlock, just for visual clarity, product posting group, which I think we'll go ahead and abbreviate that, and then item category code and unlock location. which is actually going to be unlock location type. In our original specification for this, we had the plan for potentially 3 different location types, and I think originally I said manufacturing was going to be separate from advanced storage. We may or may not do that, because my thinking is that if the manufacturing center is also an advanced logistics location, that would probably make things smoother for us from a operation point of view. So we will go ahead and say unlock location type. That sounds fine. And there we are. And we'll leave it extensible checked. Sure, we probably won't make use of that. That's fine. Okay. Now, with that enumerator in place, we can go ahead and say field 40 is research type. And now we can do our BCS research type. I don't actually know how much my clattering away on the keyboard is picked up by my microphone. Alright, so some of these got set to be classified. Let's go ahead and system metadata across the table again. Okay, perfect. So those are the different research types. We will come back to this because I think what we can do here is we can do another complex table relationship where we can specify for the when we're talking about the unlock product posting groups or category codes or locations. Actually, we'll go ahead and do this now. Let's split this right so we can kind of see what we're doing. I like the layout of this being filled out, but I do wish it was a little more like this. I think it's easier to read as a single line here, and I think that would have been a better layout option for my taste. It's probably against the standards, but when we hit save, it allows it to stay, so it would be a little easier, I think, to read if we were all still single lines. I might tidy that up before I upload that to GitHub and continue on to the next iteration here. So if let's do this. If we're dealing with operations per day or power per day or prospects per day, those are all per day bonuses. We could go ahead and cram all of the per day bonuses into a single integer field, and then say, depending on what you've selected, that is the value. I don't think there's the need for that. Field numbers we don't have to pay for fields, and there's not going to be a sufficient amount of research values for it to be a significant overhead to have the blank integers. So we absolutely could repurpose a single field in lots of different ways depending on the context of the research type. I could do that as well for the unlock, where I could say if it's product posting group enum type, then we'll do a table relation to the product posting group. I would rather be able to delineate those more clearly in our UI and see them for what they are. So let's do all of our supporting fields for these as new things here. In my notes, the way I'm inclined to think is that the operations per day, this will just be a straight additive bonus to a player of how many operations per day this particular research impacts. So let's say, for example, are we going to Yes, so operation per day bonus, and I'm just thinking about what is this going to be applied to? We're going to apply it to particular bot types or upgrade codes or things like that. So in the case of an improved processing kit, for example, do we potentially want to have that be, instead of +1, it's +2? So we may come back here and say whether or not this is against a particular bot type. Oh, see, this is an example of the story doesn't tell us, the specification doesn't tell us, and even as we kind of walk through planning this out, how do we want this to functionally work from the perspective of a system manager when we come in here to set these things, and how far of a reach do we want to have? Let's see. I'm thinking then we know that we're going to have potentially different bot tiers that this applies to, and we potentially may have this apply to bot upgrades. So what we should do then is we should have operation bonus type as an option field, which we have not done before in the series so far. I am always clunky on these. Options, for those of you who are new to working with development in Business Central and NAV, option is just an integer with a lot of fancy dressing and helpfulness. It is stored as an integer, but programmatically we can treat it as it's the precursor to enumerators, effectively. So in our option field type, we say option members, and we're basically, for this specific field, creating a kind of an enumerator that automatically has option members. In my case, let's say, for example, blank is the first type, and then I believe I always mix up my commas and quotes with the option type, so we'll see how this goes. We want to apply this to particular bot templates, and we might want later to apply this to upgrades. Yep. Okay. Cool, I did my quotes correctly. So now option caption, this is what will show in the dropdown, the same way the enumerator does. But here I believe bot template code, upgrade code. Sure. Yay, I got my quotes and commas correctly. We're using double quotes to define the individual values with the commas outside of the quotes, and then the captions we use the quotes and put the commas inside. And as always, I create a blank one to be my first entry. So now when I put this field on a card or a list, it has a drop down automatically showing a blank bot template code or upgrade code. Now we can apply a bonus operation type to either a specific template of a bot or a specific bot upgrade kit, because we are going to have those. Great. And now we will say operation bonus code to say, okay, which bot template, which bot upgrade, which, if I recall correctly, yay, we did do a bot template with the code 20, so perfect. Alrighty, helps if I punctuate correctly while I'm talking. Alright, so now this is a table relation where if our operation bonus type is equal to, and we'll come on back here for my reference. So we do const of that value against the types. Okay, perfect. Again, I don't tend to do a lot of typing up these table relations, so there we are. If it equals const of bot templates, then our table relation for this is vendor, so our table relation for this is bot instance. Now, we cannot do an else if for the operation type equals upgrade because we haven't invented the upgrade codes yet. So we are going to need to wait on this, and we will leave ourselves a nice little to-do note. We need to link the table relation to upgrade kits. Okay, beautiful. And now we can do pretty much the same exact process here for power. Yeah, I think, yeah, let's do that. Okay, now we need to renumber and rename across the board. We are going to have, instead of operation bonus, we are going to do power per day bonus, and this one is a reduction. Now, one of the things that we are not doing right now that we could absolutely be doing, and we may want to think about, is we could be providing tooltips, or is that on the page level? It is on the page level. Okay, so when we create the setup of this, we could be adding tooltips that clarify what do we mean power per day bonus, like what are we talking about here? Are we talking about a percentage? Are we talking about a flat amount? You know, right now, if our bots per day take 25 power per day, if we put in 5 there, does it boost it to 30 per day? Does it reduce it by 5 per day? We can do a lot of clarification in the tooltips, and that would be something strongly recommended if we were making this a clean product for someone else. And now, let's see. Okay, perfect. That's all set. Now, we also are going to have prospects per day, and we can think about doing the same structure for prospects. I don't know that we're going to have upgrades that will affect bots for how many prospects they're going to find. I think the bots that will be doing the find on these are going to be straight doing operations or power. And there won't be any kits of like find customers better in this iteration. So I think we can just do a much simpler structure here where we say, let's do 70. Do we want prospects per day, or do we want to do a prospect quality? Yes. Good idea in my brain just now. When we are digging into customers, trying to find new customers or trying to find suppliers, what we had talked about doing was a maximum orders per day or quantity per day driven based on maybe the quality of the bots that are involved. So a better tier bot could find you a better quality of customer or vendor to do revenue towards. So the way that we can do our prospect researches that we can potentially do some unlocks is we can do a prospects maximums, and that's a terrible phrasing. let's do a multiplier. I think that'll be fun. So, caption, and it's pretty much as terrible of a field name as it is. We're going to stick with it. I've been skipping over my data classification, so let's real quick add that back to all of these. And I think I skipped my captions for our option fields as well. Got distracted by setting the options on those. So let's get that fixed in just a second. I believe there is a extension in the pack that we have installed that will quickly add captions to all of your fields if you haven't gotten them already. I haven't dug into that. There's probably Control-Shift-P drops open our command palette. There's probably some AL function to add all your captions to a table or something like that. But if there is, I don't know what it is yet. So some interesting options in there, though. So let's get our captions in place for the research fields. Great. And same here. Operation, postcode, perfect. Tidy you up. Something that I will chatter about again towards the end of the video in case someone just skips along right past this little part. In the very near future, I am probably going to do some off-camera work for things that we've done a lot of, and some of the setup work. And what I will probably do is I will record that and upload a time-lapse version of that to YouTube. It'll be a lot of the same things we've done for other things. So, for example, creating the rough framework for all of the dispatcher code units for all the other bot types. Creating some of the different bot templates, and after we've got the master items set up today and the tech tree data repository here for today, I think I will go ahead and also I will go ahead and create all of the values that are going to live in those spaces. So yeah, that's something that you can look forward to next time. I will probably show that clip in a very short summary form for the next live stream. Yeah. Okay, so our prospect maximum multiplier, that'll be exciting to implement. And then we also were going to do, I had my list right here. We are going to have some unlockables. So for example, we are going to do we can just do nice and simple, name it after what it's for. We are going to have an unlockable product posting group from this research. And if it's the type of unlocked product posting group, we know that this is that. So, great. Okay. And we will do the same with our item category code. One of the things I love about the system is that it is pretty consistent across the whole system. So when we're dealing with setup fields that are code primary keys, you can usually wager on it being a code 20. And that is super helpful. We are going to cross-check that in a moment. I'm not going to blindly assume I know, but let's see. Location, this one may get a little trickier because I don't think there's any location templates in the system. That's not normally the case here. So we may also need to dig into some additional setup work for that. But for now, we don't have that, so Now, here on this one, we can do table relation to... we don't have to do an if on this. We can just straight up do this against the general. The dot kills the autocomplete. Ooh, okay. Gen dot with quotes, it won't. General product posting. There we go. And when we mouse over that, we can do a go-to definition. I thought we could just mouse over it and get the tooltip, but no. So code 20 is our primary key, as I thought. And item category code, we can do the same thing. Item category is a little bit of a strange table. It has evolved a lot, and now it's a little more complex than it used to be, because much like our research table, it in fact is recursive in a way, in that a category can be a parent to another category, to another category, to another category. And as you can see here, they had to do the similar sort of logic that we're going to need to do, where we watch for circles in our things. They do a much simpler check, I believe. I think they only look at one level. So I'm pretty sure it's possible that you could go ahead and have 3 levels of parents and blow up your system, I believe. Not sure. But not our... we're not trying to blow things up today, so... Okay, so now we've got our basic research infrastructure, and since this is a system management table, for now, we can purely focus on what research setup looks like, and this, we don't need a card for each of these. We can just do a nice easy list for this. So let's do a page, BCS, research. We'll call it research setup, just so we can find it a little easier in our searches on things. Okay, and this is administration. Okay, now we'll go ahead and show our entry number, sure, but now we mostly need research as our next one. I would want to see description, the unmet, if it should be hidden if the requirements are unmet, what points are involved, and then we'll go ahead and do operation bonus codes. It should be type bonus then code, but that's fine. There's that. Okay. So, great. I'm going to go ahead and move this field down one, because I really wanted it to actually be bonus type per day, then code. Type per day, then code. Brilliant. Alright. One of the things that we could do, if we go ahead and we publish this real quick right now, one of the things that we can do to make our life a little easier, when we are setting up all of the research trees and the different research components, right now, when we go to this list, we are going to see all of the fields, and we can edit all the fields regardless of what what research type. So for example, if I say power as my first research, economical bots, sure. And this is, I don't know, a 500-point research. I could set my operation bonus type, even though this isn't an operation type. So a common good practice when some fields are used only for some types would be at the page level to choose which fields are editable or not editable based on that type setting. I'm looking at the clock and also watching. We are probably not getting to secondary goals today, unfortunately, because this is good stuff, but it takes a little time. So to do what we need to do here, let's go ahead and tidy up our UI a little so we can see what we're doing. Clear that. One of the things that we are going to need is we are going to need to set if the fields are editable or not based off of the research type. Thankfully, in this case, the logic check here is just whether or not the research type is set. The other things that we did not do that we could do is right now we see that the operation per day bonus is 0 here. We could also have that field be blank when it's not relevant, which I prefer to do. I think it's visually clear that this is not set, particularly in situations where we aren't even going to be able to change that field. So the presence of data there, it feels incorrect. So the way we handle that is I'm going to do this at the table level for this option. So that way everywhere where we use an operation per day bonus, if it is 0, show it as blank, not 0. And we'll go ahead and do that on the power per day bonus, and we'll do that on our prospect multiplier. Brilliant. Okay, so that takes care of one graphical issue in my mind. We have the other issue, entry number should not be editable. So let's fix that. It is auto-assigned. I think it will give us an error if we try to edit that because it's auto-increment, but we don't even need it to be editable. So let's fix that. Okay, great. And now on the page level, we have some options. Because we're doing simple logic here, we can say editable equals research type equals research type operations. We don't have to set a variable. We could. We don't have to call a function. We could. Lots of different things that we could or don't do or don't have to do. And I believe that by setting this editable to be based on the research type, let's check that when we change the research type that will automatically refresh correctly, because I don't know for sure that it will, and I would prefer to check that. Yes, that's fine. Okay, perfect. I need to be on a different role center. It's trying to load up lots of data. Let's do that. Oh, interesting. We are looking at System Manager setting. So why, pray tell, is this the bookkeeper or sales agent? Yeah, sales agent. Interesting. That was sort of fascinating. When I hit F5, it refreshed the data, but it didn't actually refresh the page the same way as clicking reload the page. There's something for me to experiment with later. Okay, so now we have a situation here where the research, we were entering a research, but we changed it before the record was saved, like changed the underlying table. So that's, it inserted, but it didn't keep our changes. That's okay. So we have operation bonus type editable only if the research type is operations. So if we look here, our operation bonus type, we can't do anything with it. We can't click on it. But if we say operations, now we can. So that works exactly as we need to. There are lots of ways to do these sort of editable controls. I historically have set a variable, and then it was on me to do the variable updating. So for example, a trigger that each time the record is read, we need to check that setting. Each time the user changes the field, check that setting. But because it is a field on the record that that is being controlled, we can just go ahead and set the editable to be equal to that. And we'll do that across all of these, except on here. Now this is based on power. So now this will make it a lot easier to ensure that someone is not accidentally doing the wrong settings for the wrong research type, which is a good thing. And then this is unlock item category code, and we have this one, which is unlock product posting group. There we are. Great. Publish. Ooh, here we go. And again, we've changed things. Yes, we sure have. Go, go, go. Run, run, run. All right, now if we go to our research setup, here we are. And once again, using our trick of refreshing on a list page to make it actually take up the whole screen. That looks just better. I wish we could. Well, that was interesting. I was looking at the list view, and as soon as I hit edit list, it popped up as the pop-up. All right, fine. Okay, so now we should be in a place where we can't set any of these fields off to the right here because we haven't set which type of research is going on. So, for example, our operations, let's say for basic bot ops improvement, and we say this one is 500 points, and it's going to increase our operations per day by 1 for a given bot template. Now, here's a fun little thing. We did a table relation against bot templates. If we look at the full list, we still see just this insane little instance ID. Did I put the... Always fun when you realize you might have linked to the wrong thing. Yes, I did. BCS bot instance. IntelliSense helping me out with an incorrect pointer. Excellent. We want our bot template. Let me go ahead and let's save that before we interrupt ourselves with a publish. Okay, fantastic. So it still is going to bring us to one of our next tricks of Business Central development that you need to know how to do, which now that we are pointing to the bot templates, we are seeing our bot templates. What you'll notice here is that we are, the table relation is pretty smart. Where did we set that this code and description should show up when we do the linking? We didn't do that anywhere. It knew that we wanted a code and a description because that's standard sort of coding practice. If the primary key is code and there is a descriptive text field, it will automatically go, oh, maybe that's what we should show people when they're getting a drop-down list and this full version of the list. But that doesn't give us all the information that we would really want to see from our bot templates. If we look at our bot templates, we really want to see also, at least in the list, maybe not first, but at least in the list, which bot type are we dealing with? So how do we take over the responsibility for what is here? Well, We don't do that here in our table relationship, pointing at the bot template. We do that in the bot template itself. So let's go over here. We need to give the bot template table a special thing called a field group. And we need to give a special field group the name, which is not something that auto-completes anywhere that I'm aware of. We need to give a special name called drop down, sure, a field group specifically named drop down. And this drives what is shown. So now, with this in here, I believe I need a end. Yeah. There. Do I? What actually can be said in here? Oh, I guess you can set a caption on a field group, but I don't know anywhere that's displayed. Anyways, a field group called dropdown defines on this table anytime something in the system points to this table via table relationship, and we get that little dropdown, what fields should we be showing to our end user for information? And like I said, it tries to be intelligent and provide that for you automatically based on some standard functionality. But you'll notice that when I had it pointed at bot instance, because my primary key was a number and I did not have a description field, all we got in that little list was 1. Not very useful. The other thing to know about field groups, since we're talking about them, if we go to the bot template list, and we say tiles, it auto-generates these tiles like so. I actually think that looks mostly okay, but say for example these numbers don't mean a whole lot, just kind of standing out by themselves. So maybe what we would want to see is that layout to be a little bit different. You can create another field group that is special called, I believe, brick, and choose what fields are shown in there. And let me bring up our good old friend at the Microsoft Docs. Field groups. Yes, so field groups, there are some custom specific ones, drop down and brick. And if we look at what's the story behind the brick, that drives the layout, and it is fixed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have to provide fields in some fashion that fits into these 5 bricks. So when we looked at our bot template as tiles here, you'll notice that it just said, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just use them. To my knowledge, I don't think we can skip a field in the field layout, and they do have to be fields. You cannot just provide functions, you cannot provide variables. I don't think you can even provide text constant type things. Like for example, if you wanted to have a clear, like a text label that was just the same on everyone that said, you know, what was going on, I don't believe you can do that. The only difference is that you can use images of specific media type field, and you can do some styling things. So for example, if we wanted to have special colors for purchasing and sales bots, we could go ahead and use the styles available to us. But that is selecting only from the existing styles as per the standard, where we have a finite list of them that are rendered to the different colors. I'm not entirely sure why in this layout of things. They don't give us a visual example, but I may go ahead and submit some feedback. As I've mentioned on the document pages at Microsoft's website, there is a fantastic documentation team behind things, and at the bottom, when you submit and view feedback for this page, it will create a GitHub issue that you will get notified when they take action on it. I might go ahead and suggest to their product team it would be great to have a visual representation of what these actually mean on some of the different platforms, or even just something a little more like what kind of blue, deep dark blue, bright baby blue. It would be helpful to see the differences there. So coming back to things, we could go ahead and set a brick. I'm not going to do so right this moment. Let's go ahead and save and publish this changed dropdown. And we'll have to, yep, get our little error message. Sure, not a problem. Refresh. Yes, we know. Now if we come back into our research setup and we do our drill down, here we can see now we get a code, a type, and a description. So that's how we can connect tables in a little smarter of a way. We are starting to run to the end of our time, but I want to real quick create a research prerequisite table that will work in a similar sort of way, so that way we've got some structure around this. Research prereq. Let's be smart and let our wizard do some of the legwork for us. That just makes sense. Prereq. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That sounds fine. Okay, so for a given research code, or ID, right? Yep, for a given research entry number, we are going to have what researches are required. So research ID, which is just an integer, system metadata, and then what is the prerequisite? Hopefully I'm spelling usefully today. I cannot promise. My brain's a little iffy. So this is going to be a pure prerequisite system for the technology. We also mentioned in our specification that we might have different technologies require upgrades, require materials. I will handle that through a separate table, I think, rather than... Nope. Let's do that on requirement type. Make that be option. And item number. And let's point to what will eventually be our master item numbers, which will be implemented as player item numbers, but that's fine. And then we'll also say quantity. And then this, we'll set it as decimal, even though all of our items are going to be integer friendly. Decimals are better for quantity fields, just as a habit. They're better for calc sums and things like that. So anyways, real quick here, yes, we are going to get some warnings because we created an option and the wizard does not, fair point entirely, does not provide those option members and option captions for us. So this is going to be, again, I would prefer to have a blank option in the beginning, and then we will either require a research or a material. And our option caption, trying to hurry up a little bit to finish our time without going too over. Material, brilliant. Okay. Okay, and then here in our research ID, this is going to have a table relation to our BCS research, and so will this. We will probably in our next episode, when we do an uninsert and when we do an onModify, we should call a local procedure that will check, do we have any sort of circle? You know, does A require B, require C, require A kind of thing? So let's do that. And we'll also end up with a label. Cyclic loop error is a label. And I use the wrong punctuation because I'm trying to hurry, and hurrying is a way to make mistakes. There we go. And when we do insert and modify, we only need to do this cycle check if the type is a research type, requirement type of research, and the, what was the field name here? Prerequisite, yeah, does not equal blank, because if the prerequisite is blank, then they haven't picked anything yet. There's no value to trying to check that. And we will go ahead and put that. Yes, it is in the integer field, so if it does not equal 0, there we are. And we'll put that in our onModify as well. There we go. So only if it's a research and they've set a prerequisite, which, since I decided things after the fact, it put the fields in the wrong order, which I think the compiler was not happy with me about. And I also did not end that sentence correctly here. Perfect. All right, and I'm a big blank 0 fan for integers. So, and like so. Great. Okay, and so now we've got a research prerequisite. Let's do a new page. Going to be very much the same style of things we did before. And this is requirements. Partly because I don't want to type prerequisite again. All right. Now, we could, as a nice and simple sort of thing, we could go ahead and do this as a list part and show it right on our research screen, which I think we should do. It would be really much easier from a UI perspective that when we click on this row, we see in the bottom half of our screen here what are the requirements for that. I also think that it will be beneficial for us to see how many prerequisites are set on any given research. So let's go ahead and we'll do this real quick here. So let's call this instead research subpage, which is a standard sort of naming schema for a header lines sort of situation. This is going to be a list part. So yeah, we are going to say the requirement type is this, and then we might have a prerequisite, and we might then have a master item and a quantity. Great. Okay, trying to cruise this along here. So now we've got this little sub page that just has these set of fields, and let's go to our research setup page. We're going to add a new part, which is going to be beneath our repeater. And this is prereq BCS research subpage, and you'll see that it's only giving us the possible parts that are valid. Even though I've typed BCS, these are the only 3 things that could be valid parts on a page. So there's some really nice logic hiding behind the scenes here. Now we need to have a subpage link that connects. I stand corrected. Subpage view in this particular case. Subpage view will drive. Let's see here. We should be able to say. Yes, okay. This is looking for a table relation style connection here, where we are going to say where the research this one? Okay. This is from the research table, the page we're on, where entry number is equal to field no, I think it's messing with me. I think it was a subpage link is what I wanted, because we should be able to say where research ID is equal to field entry number. Okie dokie. Now I am thinking I am remembering my key phrases wrong, so let's take a quick look at if our object designer comes up nice and friendly today, and if this information will show today. Error occurred. Cool, cool. Always good when errors occur. I might have to restart my Visual Studio Code. Yay. Let's do that. When you run into issues, odds are pretty good. Restarting Visual Studio Code is your friend. Just nature of the thing. Okay, so for example, a common place where we would have a link here is sales order, looking at the part for the lines. So let's come on down here. We don't want our fact boxes. We want the lines part. Some of the different groups. Aha, here we are. That's what I thought. Subpage link, and then document number equals field number. Yeah, I thought so. Wasn't going crazy. Part of what was tripping me up here is that our tooltip for the subpage link faked me out by saying sets a link to a fact box. I'm not linking a fact box. Okay, and research ID equals field entry number. Thank you. Okay, that makes more sense. Perfect. All right, so now, and there's a little option here that I want to have some update propagation true. We will get into what does we will get into what is that actually doing in another episode. We are already running a little over. So real quick, I've mentioned that I want to also show how many requirements are on a given research. And if we go to our research table here. Stylistic thing, I like to do what we're about to do in a separate area of field numbering, just for very visual clarity that this is not data. So I'm going to start at 1000. Let's call this prerequisites. Yes. And this will be an integer. And we are going to do a I am punctuating wrong and not even seeing it due to the lightness of the highlighting there. We are going to change our field class on this to something called a flow field. If you have not worked with them before, buckle up, it's a little insane. But we are going to do a calculation formula built into this field that is a count thought I wanted. Yeah. Okay, a count. Okay, so the where goes inside. Where the Alright, so now what we are looking for is how many requirements are there on this research to unlock. So that is this research ID equals to field entry number. I called this entry number, but it really should not be, because BCS research.number makes more sense linguistically. So let's go ahead, before we get too deep down the rabbit hole, and rename that. So that means in here where we'll go ahead and say entry number equals dot number. Beautiful. And we will fix our PK. It's still pointing to the same field number, so nothing is going to blow up there. And we just need to fix the page is calling it entry number as well. And it is doing a link on the entry number, so we'll fix that. And honestly, that does suggest that in our research requirements table, we should call this research number, not research ID. It's good to catch inconsistencies early. As you can see, we're only having to change a few places to reflect the new name, so that helps. Now we need here to update that and update here. So going a little quick because I am at 80 minutes instead of 60. But all right. So now we have a little field that is an integer that is this weird funky field class called a flow field with a calculation formula somehow or another that says it's going to do a count of search prerequisites where research is the field number. And then I would also would like to see how many other researches require this research to do their job. So in that case, we are doing a same flow field where it is a count of, again, the requirements, where the prerequisite is equal to our research number that we're currently on. It's neat how that tooltip was just kind of slowly marching its way to the right there. I dig it. There. All right, so real quick, I'm glossing over some things high speed, but let's go back to our page here, and we are going to, before all of the details, insert those new flow fields we just created. Required by, And again, I did not set down at this level here. I would like it to be blank 0 equals true, and these are flow fields. We should not let our users edit them. I also did not give them captions or data classifications, but I can do that a little later. That's fine. So we have our required by and field prerequisites. There we are. Okay. I think we're going to wrap up just after this, but let's demonstrate how this should work before we jump out. Yep. F5 is attempting to refresh the data without refreshing the page. That's very fascinating. And it's also refreshing me to a role center that didn't exist. I'm guessing I refreshed while it was still building that role center again. Okay, so let's say, for example, we are going to make a second level improved that is this one costs 1,000 points, and now you'll notice we've got the required by prerequisites. Let's see here. To research the improved operation improvement. Oh, that's fun. We are going to require research 1. There we go. So now research number 2 here, this silly thing, let's just call it silly thing, just for clarity's sake. This silly thing requires research number 1 to have been completed. And you'll notice that our prerequisites, we now have 1. Great. And if we close it and reopen it, because I don't think it's refreshing, there we go. It is showing us that this is required by one of our research. So now we can nice and easy start to create all of our researches and build out that tree. And maybe somewhere down the road we will make a more interesting UI where we can see all the branches and everything like that. But we are definitely not there today. In my off time, I will probably go ahead and add a very similar sort of new table for the quote-unquote master items. Those will be templates that will be deployed to the player's company as they unlock different items. We will go ahead and then be able to have links in here where we say maybe this requires material research, but we don't have the ability at this time to go ahead and point that to some different items. So we're going to have to fix that up. We also are going to have to fix the fact that the way that I've designed the subpage, I was hurrying, and we have a problem with primary keys. Right now, as it is designed, the research requirements, this prerequisite table, it is only allowing 1 entry per research number. So we are going to have to add a secondary little key. We'll just go with a simple line number. It's really not a big deal. There we are. And I'm doing this real quick because honestly the system will do most of the work for us, so why not? Let's take advantage of it real quick as our last thing for today. On the sub page we can turn on an option called auto split key, and effectively, as long as the primary key of the data that you're dealing with ends in an integer, which this line number, it can automatically number the table for you. So let's go ahead, discard those changes, publish the changes, refresh. I'm still compiling the objects. Come on, man. Yes, yes. I like how we fall back to the default role center. We know that and it's not ready. So now if we go to our research setup, we should be able to see that we can now go ahead and create another line, and we don't get the error that we were getting about things. If we cheat a little bit, and in the URL here we say, instead of page 80,001, if we go to our table 8009, we can look at the raw data behind the research prerequisites and see that first one we created, it got a 0 because we didn't have auto split key turned on. By having turned that on, it automatically assigned the primary key for the research number based on our link, and it automatically started assigning line numbers. And this functionality is pretty robust. We could insert records between these and it will do the math out on that. So a very powerful engine. We're going to spend just a great deal more time with that in the future. So don't feel too worried if I went very quickly through some key concepts. All of them are definitely ones we are going to be revisiting time and again. Flow fields and page links and auto split key, primary key concepts. All of those we're going to be spending lots of time with. So, we went through things very quickly there, even though we went for an extra half hour. But we are between now and the next episode, I will hurry and create some of the master items, the prospects and things like that. They are going to be very similar tables. We will review the code and optimize that code on stream. So it is something that we will see, but I'm going to go ahead and build that as part of a little time lapse for next time, getting us closer and closer to something functional, something we can play around with a little bit more. As a reminder, for those of you watching live, I will be moving the stream back a couple of hours starting on Monday. It will be 5 p.m. Eastern, Central European time, which does push it back to, I believe, 11 a.m. Eastern U.S. time and 8 a.m. Pacific. It might be a little easier for some people, harder for others, but it's what I need to do. So, all right. Well, fantastic. We got a lot done today, and we will be doing lots more next week. Hopefully laying the groundwork for all of the core parts of the system between now and next time. So, take care, everyone, and as always, thank you for watching.